than one of these serial killer knockoffs.
Christy Knows Best, all new episode tonight at 10:30 on USA.
I crushed you in the closet game, and I'm crushing it on the internet. Put that rap down, and I'll crush you on your porch. Like that isn't going to be any more painful than your stupid rant.
XCTS, $349 a month. $349 a month.
Yeah.
2018 Cadillac XT5 crossover. $299 a month. $299 a month.
Come see me at Central Cadillac, East 30th and Carnegie, or online at centralcadillac.com.
Well, Bob Mueller has now rested in his first trial as special counsel, the one against Paul Manafort. There are new signs tonight Mueller's gathering evidence for another potential trial of a man who worked with Trump far longer than Manafort, Roger Stone. Mueller's grand jury just heard from Stone associate Kristen Davis, and she is saying, number one, she's concerned Mueller is coming for Stone, but number two, she doesn't believe anything bad happened.
Did you come away from your session today believing that the investigators are coming for Roger Stone?
I did. I think that there's cause for concern based on that they just want to believe something happened, which I don't believe it did.
She doesn't believe it did. Now, she's one of at least 7 people connected to Stone who Mueller is interested in. New reports tonight, he's also looking beyond collusion and into Roger Stone's alleged threats to the political activist he once described as his intermediary to WikiLeaks, Randy Credico. That may seem familiar because Credico first aired those concerns in our interview back in May. Quote, I'm going to take that dog away from you. Nothing you can do about it. I'm paraphrasing. I will prove to the world you're a liar.
He's afraid I'm going to unload on him.
Why is he bringing your dog, who we have on the screen, why is he bringing your dog into this?
Because he's a sick man. He is delusional.
Memories. Roger Stone and his lawyer deny any wrongdoing here, and it probably would take more than only angry text to make a full obstruction case. And Stone does do something else that's relevant here. He follows the Trump view that just about any public fight is worth having if it's good for attention and ratings.
Roger understands that I've always gotten great ratings, whether it's on The Apprentice or virtually any interview. I think that's one of the things that's always fascinated Roger, because ultimately it is all about the ratings.
That last clip comes from the Netflix documentary Get Me Roger Stone. I'm joined by the film's director, Morgan Pemme. He spent more than 5 years working with Stone on that documentary project. Also joined by Shelby Holliday, a reporter for the Wall Street Journal who's been covering this probe and, of course, Roger Stone. You know these people better than most, spent more time with them than most. Yes. And everyone notices the carnival aspects. But Bob Mueller has proven himself to be interested in more than the carnival. What do you think is happening at this pressure point?
Well, you know, what we've seen is that Bob Mueller doesn't captain a leaky ship. And anything that has come out of the probe has come from witnesses who have appeared in it, not from the special prosecutor's office himself. So, you know, when the Manafort indictment came down, we saw a whole bunch of stuff that we had no idea was out there come to light. I suspect that if there is an indictment, then we're going to see a lot of pieces of the puzzle that heretofore were unknown. We know with Andrew Miller and with Kristen Davis, these are very close, loyal friends of Rogers, but more importantly, they're people who were scheduling Rogers' appointments, had access to his email, had access to his social media accounts. They're in a position to really attest to where Roger was, what he was doing, and when.
But do you believe, based on knowing him, that where he was less interesting than sometimes where he claimed to be?
That's certainly Roger's MO, is that he oftentimes pretends to have a more robust role in nefarious deeds than he actually does. I haven't seen the smoking gun yet that seems that would place Roger in a whole heap of trouble, but certainly the Mueller investigation, bringing Kristen Davis, Andrew Miller, wanting to bring all these people around Roger in his orbit before a grand jury certainly telegraphs that they're getting closer and closer to Roger.
Shelby, take a listen to Roger's latest description of what he won't do.
There is no circumstance in which I intend to be pressured in order to testify against the president. First of all, I have nothing that I could say about him that would be negative, and secondarily, I'm just not going to do this. I wouldn't rule out cooperating with the special counsel if I can be helpful in some area,
but there is no circumstance under which I would testify against the president.
Those two don't really go together. I mean, he's saying he won't testify against the president, but he has nothing to testify against. I mean, his arguments are interesting. They change from day to day. I would say reporting on him is a fascinating thing because he's a very intelligent, well-spoken, and tricky person. I mean, that's what he prides himself on. So anytime you approach him with something, for example, the Podesta tweet, he has an explanation for why he sent that tweet and why it's totally irrelevant to the Mueller investigation. I thought the most telling part of Kristen Davis's interview and of other interviews that have been given by Roger Stone's associates is that they all say, all these people who've talked to Mueller's team, that Mueller is hyper-focused on collusion. That is in stark contrast to what Stone says in the press and in interviews, that he's worried about getting hammered for some sort of financial violation or something related to his PAC. Stone is trying to spin this as he could get in trouble for some crime unrelated to collusion, while everyone around him says, no, it's all about collusion. It's all about the messages you sent, the tweets that you exchanged, the people you were in contact with, whether it was Julian Assange or Guccifer 2.0. That's what they're focused on.
Well, I think you're raising an important piece of context about where the clues lead, as you often do, which is there are people who are operative in the White House, right? When they're interviewed, the implication when Sean Spicer is interviewed is that he might know something about all of this kneecapping of the FBI, the firing of James Comey, the witch hunt, the efforts to impede the investigation, which is obstruction. And a lot of Republicans argue, Morgan, that it's not really fair to try to take out a sitting president just over the way he deals with the FBI, no matter how terribly. Shelby points out that Roger is not that. He has zero interaction with President Donald Trump. He has not been seen entering the White House. He has no government role. Everything that Mueller's looking at here goes back to what they did during 2016. Of course, you were there, and you've told us before that there wasn't a ton of indication that he was actively spinning out some Trump campaign-backed Russian collusion.
In terms of Roger, Roger was always evasive about how often he communicated with Trump, the candidate. He did say that he was writing memos in very simple one-page memos so that Trump could digest them, that he was submitting to candidate Trump on a quasi-regular basis. As I said on your show, he did seek to meet with Julian Assange, Roger Stone. I do not have any evidence that meeting actually took place. What we've seen, this kind of communication with WikiLeaks and with Guccifer so far, it's very, it seems very incomplete. There's nothing there that, again, indicates that there was this master plan. So, it's very, I'm as fascinated as anybody to find out how this is going to play out, because we're seeing what I feel like is a corner of the puzzle, and Bob Mueller is looking at, at the picture on the box.
Will there be a sequel?
We'll see how it goes. But
we're almost out of time. Final thought.
I just think one of the things that's fascinating is it might be about how Roger Stone interacted online. The messages he was spreading coincide with what the Russian trolls were spreading, whether it was suppressing the black vote or claiming voter fraud. And I think a lot of his communications happened online. Even though he says he's somebody who conducts business by phone, he emails a lot of people, he text messages a lot of people. He was pretty active on social media, and this could come down to that.
Right, and all the dealings with Mr. Critico were also very recent texts that go to how he approached the investigation. Morgan Pemme and Shelby Holiday, thank you both. Up ahead, Donald Trump says Jeff Sessions ain't real. We'll explain in 30 seconds.
Yeah, I just want to tell you right now. I believe, I really do believe it. Something's got to hold on me,
Donald Trump has used public attacks to drive all kinds of senior people out of federal law enforcement. He didn't personally fire the number 2 FBI official, Andrew McCabe, or the investigator Peter Strzok, who was terminated from the FBI just yesterday, but he set the scene, and he's at it again today, saying his hand-picked nominee, Jeff Sessions, is not a, quote, real attorney general, part of a long-term strategy to undermine or oust him.
An out-of-control, livid president called the attorney general sitting there in the Oval Office with him an idiot. and demanded his resignation on the spot.
The president called him beleaguered and slammed his AG.
Here again, you have the president asking, where is Attorney General Jeff Sessions in all of this? He then attacks Jeff Sessions, the Attorney General, by saying this: our AG is scared stiff and missing in action.
Why does the president continue to do this? Why is he attacking his own Attorney General?
Trump wanted Sessions to stay involved in the Russia probe so he could control it and protect the president. After all, without the Sessions recusal, there may not have ever been a full-throated Mueller probe. So you have Sessions, McCabe, Comey. They are all also witnesses in this Mueller probe as well. In fact, my colleague Rachel Maddow noting that the heat on other corroborating witnesses is real.
Comey has backup, right? Comey, with his FBI training, committed the president's exact words, he says, to writing right after that conversation happened. And then he told all these people, crucially, at the time, so they can corroborate what Comey said at the time about what happened, right? Well, it's taken them a little while to get all the way through this list, but the only one still there is David Bowditch. Once you work your way through all the witnesses who might testify otherwise, well, then of course you're free to tell any story you want about what happened between the president and the FBI director. And if all the corroborating witnesses have been picked up and blown up, who's left to say what happened there at all? Who's left to say otherwise now?
I'm joined now by California Congressman Eric Swalwell, who serves in the Intelligence and Judiciary Committees, and Michael McFaul, former U.S. Ambassador to Russia. Congressman, your view of these attacks on Sessions and whether they're part of a coordinated effort to not only get the kind of leadership he wants, but as Rachel and others have pointed out, to also undercut potential witnesses.
Good evening, Ari. To me, it suggests that President Trump is running out of new ideas and new ways to obstruct this investigation. He's just going back to the old trope of attacking Attorney General Sessions. I think this is because, the walls are closing in. A crucial decision point awaits him. Will he testify to Bob Mueller or won't he? And I think in desperation, he's trying to make the investigation go away. What really worries me, though, Ari, is that the deafening silence from Republicans, people who served with Jeff Sessions, who are just saying nothing and allowing this president to continue to try and obstruct the investigation, and that they will do nothing to speak up and defend it.
I wonder, Ambassador, how you think it all relates to the fact that Donald Trump's only consistent vector is whether someone is being helpful or hurtful to him in his own estimation. A story that we don't have in our rundown tonight because there's not much to it is the ongoing Omarosa feud. But there is an overlap in the sense that Jeff Sessions has received different treatment from Trump only based on whether he's doing things that Trump thinks are good for him personally, not for the country, not for the DOJ, not for policy. Here's Donald Trump's past history with Sessions.
Jeff is an amazing man, and working with him, I know we will make these incredible strides that our country has to make in restoring safety and justice for all of our people. He is highly respected in Washington because he's as smart as you get. Senator Jeff Sessions. One of the great men. One of the most highly respected men in the United States Senate.
How does that figure into the way people view these new attacks?
Well, it just suggests that everything's about loyalty to the president. It suggests that it's nothing about the rule of law or checks and balances or the oath that all those individuals take to the United States of America, not to the president. I served at the White House for 3 years with President Obama, and two things are strikingly different. One is just how many people he's turned against, right? And when you have so many people that have resigned or he's turned against the president, that makes everybody nervous about working for this president today. And the second thing is, I remember January 21st, 2009, we all put our hands up and we took an oath to the United States of America. We didn't take an oath to President Obama or Vice President Biden. And that fundamental difference, I just don't think President Trump understands.
And Congressman, I want to read from a Republican who makes an interesting observation about this unique role that Jeff Sessions finds himself in as a beleaguered, recused Attorney General in Russia. It says, perhaps Sessions is single-handedly keeping America from falling into an unprecedented state of lawlessness. He's fully aware of the turmoil that would be caused if he resigned. Reince Priebus and others have talked about how he did consider resigning. Most people in this situation wouldn't want to keep working, and yet he's decided to stay. What do you think that says about Jeff Sessions?